So we'll move on with Mr. Stewart Lee.
Thanks. I'm Stewart Lee and I'm a stand-up comedian. I got asked to do some stand-up tonight, and I knew it would be difficult because knowing how to pitch it is hard. Knowing how many of you are here because you're fans of insects, and how many of you are here because you're fans of live devised music events, and whether there's any overlap between those two groups of people. So I had this idea that what I was going to do was come out in an elaborate insect costume and talk for about a quarter of an hour as if I was an insect. And I investigated how much that would cost. I got a quote for about £400 to £500 for quite a good insect costume. But I thought, well, there's no way I can justify spending that much on this because it might just make a huge loss. But then I was supposed to be doing a pilot of a stand-up show for BBC Two, right? And I'd written up the pilot and they kind of approved it. And at the last minute I put in that I wanted them to film me dressed as an insect. Dear Mr. Lee, I am delighted you've accepted our offer to perform a short stand-up set at the Pestival event. Now the contracts are exchanged, I was just checking that you appreciated that we require your material on the night to deal exclusively with insects. And insects only. Straying into any other areas of subject material will be considered a breach of contract. And if such a breach of contract occurs, we intend to prosecute you within the full force of the law. I only mention this, Miss Nichols writes, because at a recent entomological event in Beijing, I'm informed the comedian told an inappropriate joke about spiders, which went thus: why do black widow spiders kill their males after mating? And the answer is to stop their snoring before it starts. And Miss Nichols writes, this joke is inappropriate for two reasons. One, it is crude and there may be children present. And two, the black widow spider, Latrodectus mactans, is not strictly an insect. An insect being defined as a creature with a body segmented into three parts, with 3 pairs of legs. We would be grateful if you did not step outside your insect remit. But if you are stuck, here are 4 insect jokes you might like to tell. 1 is about a wasp, 2 are about bees, and the other concerns insects generally. Perhaps begin with the general insect joke and then move on to the other 3. This is what I've been given. What car does an insect drive? And the answer is a Volkswagen Beetle. Joke 2 that I've been given is, why do bees hum? Because they've forgotten the words. Joke 3, why do bees have sticky hair? Because of the honeycombs. Play on the word honeycomb there. Joke 4, where do you take a sick wasp? To waspital. I hope you find these helpful. Yours truly, Bridget Nichols, Pestival. Now, I have something of a reputation as a maverick within the stand-up field, and I am not going to come here and just do jokes about insects because you've told me to. In fact, what I'm determined to do is the complete opposite of that. I may not talk about insects at all. You can threaten me with prosecution. I don't care if the most powerful entomologist in the world is here tonight. I have no intention of observing your restrictions. So I wrote back to Miss Nichols of Pestival in a slightly facetious manner and asked her if there were any particular insects which she thought I should write jokes about. And she replied, dear Mr. Lee, for me, the most suitable insect for your comedy at Pestival would be the aphid. The aphid reproduces parthenogenetically, that is to say without mating, so you should at least be able to work clean. I think we at Pestival would be happy with a 15-minute routine about aphids. Perhaps something about the initially mystifying discovery of Russian spruce aphids in Switzerland in 1947, which was ultimately explained as being the result of involuntary migration by wind. I'm sure you could think of something amusing about that incident. Perhaps you might like to mention how some ants farm aphids for their juices. But you must be careful that this observation does not A, imply any sexual content, or B, suggest that the aphid is harmed in any way, as the insect-friendly audience will not like to hear about injury to any insect. Also, she writes, if you do go with my aphid suggestion, please do not draw attention to the potato peach aphid, which carries 50 different kinds of virus, as there may be people at the event who are unconvinced about insects, and they are sure to take against them if the potato peach aphid is mentioned. These restrictions apart, Mr. Lee, feel free to say pretty much anything you like about aphids. We in the entomological community pride ourselves on having a sense of humour. In fact, only the other day, someone told me this joke. What do you call a top pop group made up of insects which infest the hair of children? You call them the Lice Girls. Yours truly, Miss B. Nichols, Pestival. P.S. You can use the Lice Girls joke if you like, although it doesn't really make sense. It would be difficult to be sure that the group of singing lice were really the Lice Girls, as the gender of the head louse, Pediculus humanus capitis, is only discernible in the later stages of its life. So, there's a number of difficult restrictions placed on me, and I felt a little bit hidebound by these. I was kind of working last week trying to write my 15 minutes of insect stuff, and I couldn't do it. It was hard. I gave up. I tell you, I was sitting there trying to think of funny things about insects, and nothing was coming. And then, I gave up. But then I remembered a story. I remembered the story of Robert the Bruce and the spider. I don't know if you know it. Robert the Bruce was fighting against the English, and he wasn't getting on so well, so he ran away and he hid in a cave. And while he was there, his eye fell on a little spider that was trying to swing from one rocky outcrop to another. And he watched it once. It nearly made the swing between the rocks. It didn't quite make it, slip back down. He thought, well, surely that's it, it won't try again. But it did. The spider did try again. It swung again between the two rocks, but slipped down. Robert the Bruce thought, that's got to be it. No sane spider would attempt that a third time. But it did. As he watched, the spider tried for a third time to swing between those rocks, and finally it made it. Robert the Bruce went back to the battle against the English, and he remembered the example of the spider. And when he got there, he spun a huge web out of his own bodily fluids, in which the English soldiers became entangled, leaving Robert the Bruce free to crawl from one to the next, picking them off with his powerful mandibles. And then he won the battle and became King of Scotland. And that story of Robert the Bruce and the spider always reminds me of another story. I don't know if you know it. It's the story of Robert the Bruce and the head louse. And if you know, Robert the Bruce was fighting against the English and wasn't getting on so well, so he ran away and he hid in a cave. And while he was there, his eye fell on a little head louse, which was trying to leap from the head of one Scottish soldier to another. And he watched it once, and it tried to do the leap, the head louse, but it slipped down onto the Scottish soldier's shoulder, fell on the floor. And Robert the Bruce thought, surely it will give up that head louse, it wouldn't try again, it was insane. But he was wrong, it did try again. It climbed up to the first Scottish soldier's head. He watched it climb through a special device which he had. It leaped across, but it missed the other head and fell down again. He watched it again. Third time, it went back. And the third time, the head louse made the leap between those two Scottish soldiers' heads. And Robert the Bruce went back to the battle against the English. He remembered the example of the head lice. And he was able to infest the scalps of the soldiers, creating some skin irritation and bleeding, leading to secondary infection, thus demoralising the army. And he won. Became the king. So the story of Robert the Bruce and the head louse there. That story of Robert the Bruce and the head louse always reminds me another story. There's the story of Robert the Bruce and the potato peach aphid. I don't know if you know, Robert the Bruce was fighting against the English and wasn't really working out, so he ran away and he hid in some kind of like a cleft in rock, a cave you would call it. And while he was there hiding out, his eye fell on a little potato peach aphid, which was trying to leap from a potato, which of course it consumes, that's its food source in the early stage of its life, to a peach, which it eats as it approaches adulthood. As you all know, if this audience doesn't know that, then let's face it, this material has no future shelf life. If you can't make the potato peach aphid bit work at Pestival, you're on a hide into nothing. So he was sitting there, and he watched the potato peach aphid, and it jumped, but it missed the peach. It jumped off the potato, slid off the peach, off the kind of fur of its skin onto the floor, and he thought, well, that's that. But then he watched it again. The potato peach aphid went back to the potato. It could have just climbed up the peach and been on it, but it was important for some reason for it to achieve this leap. It had a symbolic level, and it missed again, fell off the peach on the floor. It went back a third time, the potato peach aphid, and jumped from the potato onto the peach successfully. And Robert the Bruce looked at that, and he went back to the battle against the English, and he fixed in his mind the inspiring example of the potato peach aphid, and he infested the potatoes of the English troops, which were their main kind of stock food, thus depleting them on a basic kind of ergonomic level. And then he thoroughly spoiled the peaches that they had as he achieved adulthood, denying them of the kind of luxury treat that keeps an army loyal to its leader. As a result, there was a mutiny against Edward II. The battle was lost, and Robert the Bruce, as you know, became King of Scotland. The story of Robert the Bruce and the potato peach aphid there, especially written for this evening and being broadcast live around the world. As it is being live all around the world, we can hope statistically that there is one person somewhere who goes, I've always wanted to hear something like that.